France's voters have strongly rejected President Emmanuel Macron's latest austerity push, which was spearheaded by his now ousted Prime Minister Prasar Bharati. The backlash was so intense that Bayou's government collapsed in a no-confidence vote on September 8, 2025, plunging France into fresh political turmoil. The austerity plan proposed 44 billion euros in spending cuts aimed at reducing France's budget deficit from 5.8% of GDP to below the EU's 3% threshold by 2029. It also called for freezing welfare payments and social benefits, which hit vulnerable populations hardest. Symbolically, it called for the scrapping of two public holidays, an unpopular move seen as an attack on workers' rights. It also called for capping government spending, including reductions in public services and infrastructure investment.
C'est pour fêter le départ de Bayrou.
Well, we are here to celebrate the departure of Bayrou and his budget of austerity that attacked workers in an unbelievable way. It's the first step before the mobilization of September 10, when we'll try to block the country. It's a people-led mobilization, a very significant one. We are taking our fate into our own hands.
Bayou argued that France's public debt, over 3.3 trillion euros or 114% of GDP, was unsustainable and posed a threat to national sovereignty and future generations. He warned that without action, France would be dominated by creditors and lose its freedom. Leftists condemned the cuts as socially unjust, while the far right claimed they hurt ordinary citizens. Movements like Bloquons Tout or Let's Block Everything gained traction, with unions threatening strikes and demonstrations. The National Assembly voted 364 to 194 against Bayrou, forcing his resignation and leaving Macron scrambling to appoint a new prime minister.
Nous demandons à ce que Emmanuel Macron parte.
Yes, we will not govern in a grand coalition. We will not participate in the shenanigans that are currently being carried out to be able to continue a policy that no one wants in the country. We will not participate in any government that does not carry a program of rupture. And, as I reiterated today, the unbowed will not sell themselves out for a place in ministries.
The question is whether the philosopher Macron will take vicarious liability for his government's actions. His centrist bloc has no parliamentary majority and faces rising public anger. The austerity plan may have been fiscally ambitious, but socially and politically, it proved toxic. The Economic Brief, DD India.
Let's turn to Professor Banik once again. The former British Prime Minister, Professor Banik, Prime Minister Sunak, he had taken these tough decisions for the United Kingdom, brought that economy back on track, but he lost power, as we know. So do you think France has reached a stage where it needs that kind of tough decision making?
I think Europe as a whole, including France, is gaping at a lost decade. Now, if you see what is happening in Europe, it is actually being run by a set of groups which are very strong. For instance, the trade unions, So what is happening is the trade unions, they always want to have a very high wage rate, which is otherwise not sustainable in the long run. And they are always up in arms against the government whenever they want to pursue any austerity measure. Also, what is happening is, if I'm looking into the median age of working age population, in case of France, it is close to 43 as opposed to in India, which is around 28. Another thing I should also mention is in France, almost 80% of the economic activities is formal in nature, whereas in case of India, 90% of our workforce is going in and working in the informal sector. What it implies is there is very little room for wage negotiation. And when you have this strong group of trade unions trying to put on the wage rate, which is quite high, in terms of the productivity, France, Germany, UK, all of them are losing on the productivity because the insider, which is run by the trade unions group, which are also politically quite active, they don't want the benefit they were enjoying so far to come down. And because of that, the government is losing out money because because the tax rate is too high. And
Yes.
because the tax rate is too high, you also don't see many private investment also taking place. So if I want to put all this thing together, what we are seeing a set of people who are trying to ensure that they get all the government benefit, be it in terms of high wage rate, be it in terms of social security payment, be it in
Okay.
terms of health benefit, and at the same time, they are not contributing, producing any goods and service productively for the
Yes.
economic cause. And so therefore, this kind of thing that we are going to see in UK, France is going to happen because the government is spending money without getting necessary amount of revenue. And this cannot sustain because in terms of working age population, we are seeing more number of people who are retired, who are pension earners,
Right.
as opposed to the people who actually are entering the workforce who are otherwise more productive. So this
Indeed.
is a very interesting situation, and I think the European model is not going to sustain.
Professor Banik, also, some reports suggest that Macron's popularity is at an all-time low, and his term ends in 2027. So, do you see a political instability hitting the economy even further?
Yeah, it's already started to happen. You know, the prime minister has been asked to resign, and this is not particular, as I said, about Macron, but anywhere else in Europe, because the productivity has come down. Government is spending too much money than what they're receiving at part of the
Yes.
revenue, and this is happening because historically, if you see, the whole of Europe was very much against immigration of skilled labors, something which happened in the US. In the US, the economy continued to grow
Right.
because they embrace the incoming of skilled labor, something which is not happening in Europe. So
Right.
the Europe is kind of going back into their old system of trying to help out the trade union leaders and political whose otherwise the productivity is coming down.
Okay.
So that is creating a problem, and I think Mr. Macron is in for a tough time.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Professor Nilanchan Banik. Thank you for joining us and putting all this into perspective for us.